Today we're going to look at the government inspection report for Beauvais Rehab and Healthcare Center, located at 3625 Magnolia Avenue in St. Louis. Inspectors completed this survey on March 21, 2025, and as I record this in March of 2026, this is the most recent annual survey that we have available. I'm David Terry, a nursing home abuse and neglect attorney in Missouri and Illinois, and in the past 25 years, I've been handling pretty much only nursing home cases, and I think I've read over 1,000 survey documents along the way. And today I'm going to go through the most recent survey that we have for Beauvais Rehab and Healthcare Center. And I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions on what the government's own inspectors documented. And today I'm going to focus on three things. First, what residents told surveyors about the food at this facility. And second, what inspectors found when they opened every medication chart in the building. And third, a staffing problem on the 5th floor that left an entire hall of residents covered by one person overnight, apparently for a long time. And I want to flag something at the end of this video that I feel pretty strongly about, something that this survey documents that I've covered in a previous video and that every family needs to understand before they place a loved one in any nursing home. So be sure and stay to the end so I can talk to you about that. But first, let's start with finding number one. Now, regulatory rules require nursing homes to serve food that is palatable and at a safe temperature. Surveyors interviewed 7 residents about the food at Beauvais. All 7 had complaints. Resident 129 said that the food was, quote, awful, and she didn't eat what they served her a lot because of that. Resident 77 said that the French dip sandwich was bland and had no flavor, and that the food's flavor was usually not good. All that's on page 27. But it was resident 109 whose words, as written by the surveyor, that shed the most light on this issue. On page 28, the surveyor wrote, and I quote, "Breakfast was cold and the food was inedible. He stated that they had to eat what they gave them and it was so greasy. He stated that he was weak because he could not eat the food and he had to buy his own. He," again talking about the resident, "stated he was running out of money and felt like he was going to die because the food was so bad." End quote. That's on page 28. When asked about this, the director of nursing stated that she expected that residents would be served food that they enjoy. Now let's move on to finding number 2. Surveyors reviewed all 4 medication carts at the facility on the 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th floors. Every cart apparently had problems. There were medications with no open or discard dates, expired medications that should have been pulled from the cart a long time ago, and in one case, medications mixed up between residents in a way that could have caused a serious error. On the 5th floor cart, surveyors found multiple insulin pens with no open or discard dates. Now, insulin pens must be discarded 28 days after opening. Without an open date, there's no way to know when the clock started on that discard date. And they also found an insulin pen for one resident with the cap from a different resident's pen on it, handwritten with the other resident's name, stored in the same bin, identical in appearance. And when surveyors raised this to the assistant director of nursing, that person said on page 24, "You read labels, not caps." Now, on the 2nd floor cart, there was an insulin pen opened on October 30th, and that pen was labeled with the name of the resident who had already died. The cap had the handwritten name of a resident discharged about a month beforehand. That's on page 25. On the 1st floor cart, surveyors found medications expired for months, or in one case, it had been expired for years. Okay, let's move on to finding number 3. Surveyors reviewed the facility's own staffing sheets for February and March of 2025. On 11 nights in February, the entire 5th floor was covered by a single staff member, a medication technician, or an LPN. There was no CNA available during that time. There was one person for the entire floor all night long. That's on page 18. And in March, that apparently continued. 7 more nights with just one person. And on 2 nights, March 9 and March 14, there was no licensed nurse or medication technician at all. Just one CNA covering the entire floor. A staff member who worked those overnight shifts confirmed that she was usually the only one there from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And she mentioned there was a resident on the floor who had seizures. 4 residents told surveyors the same thing independently. Resident 97 said, "Not enough staff, no staff on weekends." Resident 75 said no staff at night. Call lights were not answered. Resident 89, not enough staff. And resident 138, who is blind and who was admitted for acute respiratory failure, told surveyors that call lights could take 40 minutes to get answered and that she could not breathe. That's on pages 17 and 18. You can read that for yourself. Now, surveyors observed resident 138's call light on at 11:59 a.m. A staff member on the floor was seated in the corner talking on her phone through earbuds. Trays arrived and she kept talking and then started passing trays. Resident 138's light stayed on until 12:16 p.m. when a different staff member answered it. That's on page 17. Facility-wide, surveyors found 19 days across January, February, and March of 2025 with no registered nurse on duty for the required 8 consecutive hours. The scheduler confirmed that it was difficult to get RNs, and the interim director of nursing said if anything required an RN, she would handle it herself. Now, before I get to the remaining citations, I really want to stop on one finding that I feel pretty strongly about, because it's something that affects families before their loved ones ever set foot into a nursing home. Surveyors found that Beauvais had residents sign binding arbitration agreements on admission. Now, I've done an entire video on this topic. It's called Never Sign Arbitration Agreements When Your Loved One Enters a Nursing Home. And I'll put the link in the description and on the screen right now. Here's what a binding arbitration agreement does. It takes away your right to a jury trial if something goes wrong and a resident is injured. Instead of going to court, any dispute gets resolved behind closed doors by a private arbitrator or a panel of arbitrators. No jury of your peers, no public record, no accountability in open court. Nursing homes are not supposed to make admission conditional on signing these agreements. And you have a right to refuse to sign an arbitration agreement. You typically have 30 days to rescind one after signing. And before you sign, the facility is required to explain what you're giving up and confirm that you actually understand it. Now here, surveyors found, and I'm going to quote, the facility failed to ensure binding arbitration agreements were explained in a form and manner that residents understood and that the resident or their representative acknowledged that they understood the agreement for 3 of 3 residents. End quote. One resident told surveyors that she didn't know what a binding arbitration agreement was and didn't remember signing one. That's on page 29. When surveyors asked the administrator what an arbitration agreement was, he said, and I'm reading from page 30 here, it has something to do with legal or financial, and he knew nothing about them. So if you're placing a loved one in any nursing home, not just this one, any nursing home, watch my arbitration video first. The link is in the description, as I said. This is one of the most important things that you can do, in my opinion, to protect your family's legal rights before something goes wrong. Now, aside from the information that I gave you about arbitration agreements, everything else that I've walked through today about the items on this survey come directly from a public government record available at medicare.gov/nursinghomecompare. You can see it for yourself in the link that I've provided in the description. The issue about arbitration, as I mentioned, is one that I feel strongly about, and it's not just limited to this facility. It's virtually all of them. So be sure and watch my video about arbitrations. I think you will find that helpful if you are looking to put your family member into a nursing home. And if you want to learn about how to find and read these reports, these survey reports, yourself for any nursing home in Missouri or Illinois or anywhere in the country, watch my video, How to Find and Read a Nursing Home Survey. If you're in Missouri or Illinois and you want to talk to me about a situation at a nursing home, you can reach me at our office at 314-878-9797. Now, we're doing these videos about individual surveys for a lot of different facilities in Missouri and Illinois, so be sure and check them out, and I'll see you on the next one.